The opportunity on YouTube isn't the problem. The harvest isn't the problem. The need isn't the problem. The demand, the hunger for it is there. The harvest is not the problem. The workers are the problem. It's a message to Christian content creators. I highly encourage you to be considerate of Matthew 10:16 as a mode of operation for a way that you conduct yourself with when it comes to creating content. Once again, I want to encourage you. We need thousands and tens of thousands of Christian content creators sharing all different types of content.
Because we see Jesus do this really well. He doesn't look on just what hills does he need to die on, but he looks at what hills can he love on. Hey guys, welcome back to another video where we are continuing the conversation of Christian content creators that Think Media put out. Sean Cannell himself went on record to talk directly to Christians who are influencers who want to be making content, and we did a fantastic video last Friday. If you guys want to check out the first part of this, I'll leave the link right up here. You guys really should, as this is a continuation of that conversation. That video is going to be a little bit more polished, a little bit more edited. This one is just our reaction to the last 2 points out of 6 points that he made. So the first 4 are going to be on that other video. Go check it out. Without any further ado, let's jump into this video.
The topic today is a message to Christian content creators, and I have a meeting in 28 minutes, so that is the maximum that we can go today. Recapping, number 1, you were created to create. If you're made in God's image, God is a creator. It's the first thing he revealed about himself in the Bible. It's the 5th word of Genesis, is a creator. So it's time to create. Number 2, we were given a mission from Jesus, teaching everything Jesus taught and all of Scripture, which might include your DIY channel of bringing out the God colors in the world, right? Of art, beauty, fashion, music, creativity, gardening. Number 3, you're called to be salt and light. Number 4, you need to scale up. We need to scale up.
Yeah,
we need to scale up continuously. I would shift the camera over here. Let me show you. I'll just go for it. Here's what I'm working on right now. Y'all. This is my current to read list. All right. And the reason I throw that out there is not because you have to read any of that or you can do whatever you want. But I just want you to know. I mean, one of the things that I just strive to create distance from is between me and hypocrisy. Nothing that makes me more uncomfortable when someone says one thing and doesn't live it. Yep. You know? And so it is my conviction and it has been my lifestyle.
All this was just recapped.
That I believe that the best investment we can make is in ourselves and in learning new skills. I believe it's also the pattern of Scripture. Jesus grew in wisdom and favor with men. Jesus at 12 was found in the temple asking other people lots of questions, having articulate questions, seeking wisdom, seeking to get better. Books, of course, is just one way. Online courses, audiobooks, podcasts. It's a lifestyle. And the lid on your YouTube channel, I said it in love, is probably your content sucks.
Yep.
Among other things. And so what's the opportunity? How do you solve that problem? You skill up, you improve, you train for 3 years. You go out and repeatedly throw rocks at glass bottles. I don't know if David had glass bottles in those days, and increase your slingshot accuracy week after week, month after month, year over year. And then when Goliath arrives, you're able to have the precise target where you're able to hit this small area in the giant's head and enter into your destiny. Sure, God's super comes on your natural. Sure, that was a miraculous event, but he prepared for that moment where his preparation met God's power, and that's what we need to do as content creators as well. Number 5, we need to be wise and pure. Wise and pure.
Yep.
What? All right, here's the verse. Matthew 10:16. Look, I'm sending you out as sheep among wolves, so be as shrewd as snakes and as harmless as doves. This is a message to Christian content creators. This is probably one of the most underread or understood verses in the Bible, and no one talks about this. So I'm sending you out as sheep among wolves. First of all, it is this idea that, like, we kind of touched on this. You need to start you should create content. You should get on TikTok. You should get on YouTube. You should get out there. But what about, social media has some bad stuff on it. Yeah, it's a dumpster fire. But what do? It's understanding, there's not good people out there. There could be trolls out there. There could be hurt people out there. There could be toxic stuff out there. You gotta have your discernment on. Like, I'm sending you out as sheep among wolves. It's also not necessarily gonna be easy. You're gonna face resistance. You're gonna face challenges. You're gonna face wolves. So be as shrewd as snakes and harmless as doves. What does that mean? A couple things. So serpents never unduly expose themselves to attack. Something about being thoughtful. Sean, should my content be overtly Christian? Could be. Maybe I feel about doing it a little bit different. I have a different style in my content. Pray about it. Like serpents never expose themselves unduly to attack. Jesus taught in parables. Though seeing, there was a reason he did it. And without going into that, he was thoughtful about his brand, about his messaging, about the context of the room, about who was listening, right? And so serpents never unduly expose themselves to attack.
All right, let's stop right there because I think that's a really important part. And what I just want to say here is that for some people, they feel a conviction where they need to be bold in the online space and they have to make Christian content. They have to make sure the gospel is clearly presented in each and every message. Otherwise, they are failing, and it almost becomes like a checkbox thing that they, what good is anything if it's not pointing people to the gospel? And so they would argue almost against Sean's point here, and they feel like that's what they need to do online and maybe in the real life too. And while I understand that, and I think that's an amazing conviction to have, and I think it's something all of us can strive for, to work towards doing, I don't think that standing on the street corner and just shouting the gospel out over and over again to nobody in particular is necessarily the most strategic or the most helpful or effective way to help people hear the gospel truly. And I've done open air evangelism. I've done, street evangelism, and I appreciate it so much. And I have such a heart for people who love doing that. And I've done it myself. I'll probably do it again sometime in the near future. And that has a time and its place, and that can have its effectiveness if God comes on it, and God can use that, right? God can use anything. But I also think that there's another aspect to it. So to keep us from just checking off a box and mindlessly doing this, there's this other side where if we want to be effective, if we want people to truly hear the gospel and understand, there's the 3 T's. There's time, which over time you build trust, and over trust, you can then deliver truth. And so for Sean himself here, and Think Media as an example, they aren't overtly Christian. They're not doing Bible studies and ending every video with a gospel presentation. That's not what their audience is coming to them for. That's not what their audience was built on. Their audience was built around, if you want to start YouTube, or if you want to know what good camera you should buy and what's budget friendly, you go to Think Media and you check out their videos. Now, he's been doing this long enough. He's put enough time into that space where he is respectable, where people commend him and look to him. And so he's put the time in, and over that time of whatever it's been, like 10 years, I think he's been doing this. Now it's allowed him to have a trust with his audience, because you think it's only Christians watching this video? No, there's going to be a ton of people who aren't Christian who are going to see this and go, maybe there's something to this. Maybe there's something to what Jesus actually said and what the messaging of the Bible has to say, and it's going to incline them towards the gospel. Again, he's not doing a gospel presentation. This stream wasn't even for non-Christians, but there's going to be some non-Christians that hear this and watch this, and it's going to move them in that direction. It's going to create some influence because they've spent the time with him. They now have trust in him. And so now Sean can deliver truth to them in a more impactful and effective way than just yelling it on my street corner ever could. Now, again, not saying God can't use that. And for some of you, if that's where you feel a strong conviction and you feel a boldness to, and you spent time, like you said, in prayer doing that, that is fantastic. That is awesome. For a lot of us, while I encourage us to all try that at some point and do that and step out of our comfort zone to do open air evangelism, the reality is it is good to have a strategy. It is good to have a influence, and it doesn't mean lying. It doesn't mean shying away from the gospel and using that as an excuse to not have anything even remotely Christian in your actions or in the way you talk or in the things that you end on. But it's saying, okay, how can I be a part, create a strong brand that has an influence and reach for people and still be able to share the gospel with them? I think that is something that you can come together on. And it's going to take time, and it's going to take intentionality, and it's going to take work. But it can so be worth it, not for your own selfish gain, but to be able to advance and point people to the most effective way of hearing the gospel. Let's keep going.
They also never provoke the enemy. Cunning and wisdom is another thing for this. Number 4 is we need to be wise and we need to be pure as Christian content creators. So shrewd as snakes, what does it mean? Subtle, crafty, shrewd, wise, avoiding snares that are set up for us. Discerning the difference in audiences. Jesus would do that. Storytelling to feed and weed. Jesus.
Hold on, before we keep going, if you guys didn't catch that, he says, do not be cunning, be shrewd, right? Not falling into these traps. I think as Christians, we can see so many things, like you said, the dumpster fire of the internet, and we could think all of these things are so wrong, everything, and we want to combat every single thing. And while there are definitely some things, please hear me on this, there are definitely some things that you and I need to make sure they are hills that we are willing to die on, right? The truth of God's word, Jesus as the Son of God, those are things where we're like, hey, we're not moving. We will be stubborn on those. But there are other hills that we think that we need to be stubborn on. And we think that, okay, if I know the Bible, I have to be stubborn on these things. When in reality, they're not. There's grace in there. There's freedom for conversation and disagreement. And in those areas, we have to look and see, how do we love well on those hills? And sometimes loving well will be still speaking the truth. Sometimes loving well will still be having a dialogue and a conversation. I always encourage those things. But it's not shutting down conversations. It's not saying, hey, repent, you filthy sinner, or get out of my presence and get out of my chat. but it's being able to engage others well in conversation, because we see Jesus do this really well. He doesn't look on just what hills does he need to die on, but he looks at what hills can he love on. Again, time and a place, it's super important. And I think he's speaking right to that. And I wanted to hit that before he moves on to this storytelling point, but let's keep going and see what else he has to say.
Storytelling for some people, because by the way too, and even this training might make some people unsubscribe or not want to follow us, which is totally fine. But ultimately, as you start sharing your message, don't be surprised. You're like, oh, I'm worried if I'm going to get haters, or what if someone disagrees with me? That is the continuous theme of the entire Bible.
Yep.
If you want to be bold like Elijah, you have prophets of Baal that disagree with you. If you want to be bold like Jesus, in pretty much every room he was a part of, every context, there was people who didn't believe or got mad or got angry or disagreed. And ultimately, they imprisoned him and ultimately crucified him.
Yep.
And even as we share this in Holy Week, approaching Easter Sunday, he overcame death in the grave and he rose again. But ultimately, you've got storytelling to be in different situations, different contexts, discerning the differences in audiences. You got to be shrewd, blunt when needed.
Yep.
I hope you're getting value. Let me know if you have any aha moments from this. Kind of a little bit different than what we normally do. Shrewd as snakes. As a Christian content creator, you're called to be shrewd, wise. But then you put attention on this, right? Wisdom does not equal dishonesty. You know, one of my favorite books in the Bible, probably my favorite book, is the book of Proverbs. James is the New Testament book of Proverbs. And James talks about wisdom. Not all wisdom is godly wisdom. So shrewd as serpents, the reason he's like, and harmless as doves, is because wisdom does not equal dishonesty. If we think, we have to be careful, I think, as Christians, if falling into just clickbait or too far into just drama, or is what we're doing just for views, or is it actually being effective?
Yeah, and this was a big one for me when I, earlier this year, when I was starting to create content, I saw a lot of views coming in from talking about things that were hot news, hot takes on the biggest scandal or the newest thing in Christian news. And I felt a conviction after making some of these, even though I try to approach all these with grace and with truth, that I don't want my channel, I don't want my audience or my brand being built on the back of disenfranchising the church, dismantling the trust of the local body, because that is so important to be a part of the local body. The church, there is no plan B to that. That is the body and bride of Christ. You should be plugged into a local church. And so this was my conviction. And so I sometimes won't talk about certain topics that come out in the news or you know, whatever it may be. But if I do, I try to do it in a way where it distinguishes how we should respond as Christians and really what is the graceful approach that Christians should be taking with any of this news. And I try to do that as an example of how we should all be filtering a lot of this news that comes out. And so whatever the topic may be, I try to do it in a gracious way, whether that's talking about a moral failure or the newest pastoral or church scandal, or even like hot topics like abortion. We've covered all of those things before. We try to do it in a loving and gracious way. But we don't just do it for the sake of drama or for the sake of views. This is really important, and it should be important to your content as well in whatever area it is that you are speaking to. But let's keep going and hear what else he has to say here.
Are we spending too much time creating controversy even within Christians and the church, or are we actually being effective in reaching people and representing Christ? Wisdom does not equal dishonesty, and innocence does not equal gullibility. Gotta be shrewd, thoughtful, careful, strategic. See, most people, when you think about Jesus, you just present Jesus in culture. It's like, yeah, man, just love everybody and chill out, bro. You know, like, it's kind of Jesus is zenned out, you know, just loves people so much, you know, it's just true. Bring the little children to me. A lot of times you don't think of like shrewd and strategic. That's what we see here. And then innocent as doves. That means pure, no self-serving agenda, purity, because doves would be clean for animal sacrifice according to Old Testament, and serving the Lord blamelessly. This is a message to Christian content creators. I highly encourage you to be considerate of Matthew 10:16 as a mode of operation for a way that you conduct yourself with when it comes to creating content or think about starting a channel and how you do it. And once again, I want to encourage you. We need thousands and tens of thousands of Christian content creators sharing all different types of content. Here's the message I'm trying to encourage you with. What has God put on your heart? What do you see? What's the vision you see? What is the conviction you have? What is the gap you see in the marketplace for music or creativity or YouTube or humor or entertainment or all of these things? What is the vision God has given you? In order to get there, we got to be wise and pure. Matthew 10:16. You're going to need to be shrewd and you're going to need to be innocent. I hope that's encouraging. And then number 6, before some Q&A.
Here we
need
go.
to take action.
This one.
We need to take action. And I just want to challenge you, if you felt maybe discouraged because you haven't been creating content that hasn't grown, I want to encourage you to get back in it. I want to encourage you, if you haven't started, now's the time to start. I want to encourage you that you're needed. Matthew 9:37-38. He said to his disciples, the harvest is great, but the workers are few. So pray to the Lord who's in charge of the harvest. Ask him to send out workers into the field. The opportunity on YouTube isn't the problem. The harvest isn't the problem. The need isn't the problem. The demand for Christian content and family-friendly content, or content that you want your kids to watch, or Gen Z and young millennials and elder millennials and Gen X and baby boomers sharing and helping and passing along wisdom to the generations, the demand for it is there. Supply and demand. The hunger for it is there. The harvest is not the problem. The workers are the problem. People taking action. People punching fear in the face and pressing record. People willing to go through 3 years of training to skill up. People willing to do the hard work and to defeat the lion and the bear and develop the slingshot skills needed to be ready when Goliath shows up. But I believe that's you. Like, if you're watching this and you clicked on this video, I think you understand that God's put some passion on your life. You'd only be watching this video if you wanted to create content. You're faith-based, you're a Christian. So pray and take action. And I think there is something about this. Like, I think a powerful prayer to pray, because that's the exact thing that Jesus said in this context. He's like, listen, the harvest is great. The demand on YouTube is there. There's 2.6 billion people and the platform is growing. Like, the harvest is great, but the workers are few. We need more channels. If you feel like it's too crowded, you're wrong. We do need more content creators. Not just content creators that lob stuff out there. You got to skill up. You got to be wise. Got to be strategic. And then I'd pray, God, give me a vision. Give me a vision for the content you're calling me to create. Help me see the opportunity on the platform. Help me discern what my unique skill, gift sets, and abilities. Set me free from any like negative self-talk and comparison that just puts me into paralysis because I just feel like, oh, what's the big deal, or what's the need, or why would anybody care about what I have to say? You got to get rid of all that.
So important. The aspect of what the gospel's saying with the Great Commission is it doesn't have to be the greatest, it doesn't have to be the smartest. I know I definitely am not. But it's a call to willingness and obedience. If you have those two things, you can make it. It's going to take time. I love that in this aspect, what he says, we have to do something. It's not okay, become an instant star, become the next Mr. Beast overnight. Paul himself, who converts on the road to Damascus, takes 3 years to study and train and prepare for all of what God has in store. Don't you think he could have got discouraged if he goes, I literally experienced God, I got this calling, this conversion, and I didn't immediately start teaching and preaching the Bible? I think that's the issue often, is we see people who just want this instant gratification. They want to have 1 million subscribers in a week after making one YouTube video. And the call is much longer. It's still doing something in the process. It's still skilling up and leveling up, but it's learning to be patient on the Lord, but answering the call, not just waiting for God to bring everything to you, but going and doing something. It's having a willingness to be obedient. So hopefully you guys got something out of this video here today on these last 2 points. Again, go back and check out the first video where we cover the first 4 points that he makes here. It's a little bit more polished, like I said, and I would appreciate if you go check out that video. It's going to be awesome. It'll be linked right up here if you want to see that. Or if you've already seen that one, check out this one I did right down here that if you're a Christian content creator, might just inspire you on your next video. But until next time, guys, know that you are valued and loved. I'll see you soon.